Is the first of these meetings, which is a bit of an experiment, and just a little bit of housekeeping. Could you please ensure that all mobile devices are off? Alexa's, Google Home and other mobile phones switched off. Could you also, only members of the executive and those people who have been invited because they've submitted a question will be allowed to speak at the meeting. If you're not currently speaking or being asked to speak, please mute your microphones. If you do not mute your mic, it'll be muted for you. To assist people viewing the meeting, could everybody except the executive members turn off their cameras and only turn them on when asked to speak? The whole executive is here, all 10 of them: Charles Magetz, Charlotte Haytham-Taylor, Gregor Murray, John Kaiser, Parry Bath, Pauline Jorgensen, Stuart Monroe, Ulla Kryn and Wayne Smith are here. And in attendance are a number of officers, but officially in attendance are Susan, who's the Chief Executive, and Anne from Democratic Services. The meeting will be viewable on YouTube at a later date. Just a few words before we start. There are no apologies, but just a few words because it's a very propitious moment. We have been in lockdown for about 4 or 5 weeks now, and I've been absolutely awestruck at the whole of the council, officers, members, and the way they've put their all into this crisis. And we've achieved a huge amount, which I never ever expected that we would achieve. So I'm really very, very proud to be the leader of the council, and very, very proud of all of you and everything that's been achieved. John, you would have to say a few words.
Thank you, John.
Put their
I think it's important that I just say a few words which relates to COVID. As a council, we've always run our finances in a way which seeks to deliver the most cost-effective services to residents by working in accordance with the highest standards of financial management practice and ensuring that our overall financial standing is strong. With COVID-19, we now find ourselves in uncharted water, as with all other councils, some of which we know are not run as well as WBC. However, the challenge, even for us, are severe, which means we must continue to manage the council's accounts with extreme rigour and ensure our limited resources are as secure as possible and are used wisely, targeted to those in most need in these times of emergency. We will also be doing all we can to ensure that national government provides the finance we need to help us through these very difficult times, as we cannot manage our way through this with our current depleted income and resources. We best serve our residents by making sure we support and aid goes where it is most needed and help protect the residents whose need is greatest. And this will be our objectives throughout these dangerous and difficult times. Please everyone keep safe and follow the government guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you for that, John. As I said, there's no apologies for the absence for the meeting, and on to the meeting. First of all, the minutes of the last meeting. Has anybody any comments, or can I take them as read? Charles?
No comments.
Charlotte? Charlotte? Gregor?
No comment.
Harry?
Yes.
John? Pauline?
Yeah, fine.
Ulla Corinne.
No comment.
And Wayne. So let me take them as read then. Any declarations of interest? I know there's none. Could you make yourself known if you have any declarations of interest? So on to, so there's no declarations of interest. On to public questions. Mr. Dennis, could you please turn on your camera and ask your question, please?
Hello, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. How many empty houses are there in Wokingham Borough at this time? Can you break this information into the following elements, please? Number of social homes, including WBC owned and private properties.
John? No, you're mute, John.
Sorry about that. Good evening. Thank you for your question, Peter. I mean, I've got the information here. All the homes, if you just take homes which are owned not by the council, there are 92 homes which are empty but exempt from council tax. Examples of exemptions apply when somebody is permanently receiving care in a nursing home, or where the owner has died or gone to prison, or the property is owned by a charity. There are a further 90 homes which have been empty for over 2 years, of which 80 are currently liable for 100% uplift in council tax. There are 483 completed new builds in the borough yet to be occupied. And that we know, but they're the ones we know of that's been notified to us by builders. In addition, there are approximately 1,200 homes which have been empty for between 1 day and 2 years. With regards to the council's homes, the affordable homes, we currently have 29 houses which are in the housing revenue account that are empty, and they're waiting for work to be done on them before they're allocated. There are 24 WBC homes currently empty, which are awaiting decision for further decision on their further use. And we have 7 empty properties. Some are owned by housing associations, including Loddon Homes, of which are extra care properties awaiting allocation.
Mr. Dennis, another question, supplementary.
Yeah, thank you for that. So with that number of houses, what impact does that have, or do they have, on both the local plan update and the reduction in council tax revenue?
Well, I mean, say first of all, they don't, as I understand it, with the exception of the 483 homes that are standing empty, which are the new builds, which are yet to have been sold, or the mortgage has fallen through, whatever. I don't think that affects their housing number, to be candid with you. The other issue around the income, we collect income from all the homes except the 92 homes, which are for people that are in some sort of distress situation. And we collect normal council tax from the 1,200, which have been unoccupied for 1 day to 2 years. And we collect twice as much from the 90 homes, which are actually have been empty for over 2 years. So the impact really is not a lot, I guess.
Okay, thank you. I haven't got any. I can't add any more comments.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. If you could turn off your picture now. Thank you. Ian, good evening. The floor is yours. How are you?
Good evening, John. Very well. Good to see you. I asked the question standing in my name.
Do you want to turn your camera on? It's not compulsory if you. It's fine. Pauline. Pauline.
Sorry, I was muted. The council provided both safe lit cycling route from Finchampstead to Bowhunt School via California Country Park, which is very popular with local residents, known as the California Greenway, and constructed a new safe pedestrian route to Bowhunt School using the existing footway on 9 Mile Road, a 9 Mile Ride, and the new footway and crossing on Park Lane. Whilst the council considers it has made adequate provision for the school at the current time, we'll of course review whether any further cycling infrastructure is required once the 9 Mile Ride extension has been completed.
Ian?
Thank you, Pauline. I accept everything you've said there. We agreed to come back to this matter 2 years after we opened Bowhunt. It's now been over 3 years. We're now in the process of getting ready to build the 9 Mile Ride extension brackets south out of Arborfield to join the 9 Mile Ride at Park Lane. The extension will have a cycle path which ends at Park Lane whilst the road continues onwards down the 9 Mile Ride. How are you going to explain why the cycle path ends at Park Lane? Remember, children are cycling down the footway, down 9 Mile Ride now, irrespective of the Greenway. Thank you.
The information I've got is that actually the Greenway is relatively well used. Obviously, we've got an issue with the width of the footpath and the fact that originally there was various encroached walls and things onto the footpath, which made extending it into a cycleway impossible. Given that, I'm always happy to look at routes and see if we can improve the usage of cycleways so that children actually use the safest route to school.
Thank you, Ian. Could you close your camera off, please? Thank you. Sarah Kerr. Sarah Kerr.
Hi, can you see me and hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, camera's gone on, but okay, obviously members' question now. My question is, I'm delighted to see the first draft of the Arts and Culture Strategy being presented tonight. I would like to take the opportunity to thank officers and in particular Grant Thornton for their commitment to this. The current restrictions in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic have highlighted the importance of arts and culture to the health and well-being of people, and I believe the current circumstances add weight to the need for the development and adoption of this strategy. When we were developing this strategy prior to the lockdown, and as is still written in the proposal before you, the public consultation was set for May and June of this year. What plans are in place to mitigate any restrictions that may be faced by people or arts and cultural organisations that would want to participate in the consultation should the lockdown be extended to include part or all of the proposed consultation period?
Harry.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
I'm pleased to say that you're delighted, and many thanks for your question. I fully concur with your sentiment with regard to the significance of arts and culture to health and well-being, both generally and in particular during these exceptional and difficult times. And as you know, this report was originally due to come to a meeting in the executive in March, but unfortunately it had to be cancelled because of the current situation. But I am too really pleased that we have now been able to reconvene and can consider this draft arts and culture strategy. I believe that widespread engagement and feedback is essential to help us further develop the strategy and an associated action plan that fosters extensive collaboration to deliver on our ambitions for our arts and culture right across the borough. In this context, I'm pleased to confirm that our newly appointed Cultural Development Officer, Jodie Sadler, started in the post this week and will have a key role in promoting the strategy to arts and culture organisations and working with them to develop more detailed delivery plans. Equally essential is wider public consultation, and in my view, this engagement needs to be more than virtual. Our initial consultation plans were looking to work with a range of partners to promote and get feedback on the strategy at a number of key cultural events across the borough, as well as via social media and online channels. As this will now not be possible across the May-June period, as originally planned. Even if the lockdown period is eased somewhat, I will be asking officers to replan and extend the consultation period for as long as possible to facilitate and the well-resourced, active and face-to-face engagements that I think is absolutely needed and that our residents deserve. So yes, we will be extended, as I've said.
Sarah, supplementary?
Yeah, just to say thank you. It's the kind of answer I was after. Obviously, we can start with some of the consultation, even if we are in lockdown, if we're looking at the social media channels, because a lot of people are on there a lot more frequently at present. But an extended period would be great. And I guess I'd be keen to know when the working group meetings can reconvene, even in a virtual manner.
I am looking into that now, and I will get back to you very soon, Sarah, because we have started other consultations or other meetings using this facility called Teams. And so I will get that information across to you very soon.
Thank you very much.
Paul, camera off, Sarah. Paul Fishwick.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, for some reason the camera's not coming on, so I don't know why.
Fire away with your question, Paul.
Apologies for that. My question is about Thames Valley Park and Ride. Firstly, my appreciation to the officer for forwarding the business case on request. I'm slightly surprised it isn't attached to the report, as it surely ought to be in front of decision makers as the basis on which they are making their decision. On reading the business case, it indicates that there are potential forecast benefits in decongestion of traffic along the A4 corridor within the Reading Borough Council area. However, I cannot find anywhere the potential increase in traffic along the Woking Borough section of the A4 due to residents finding the new Park and Ride more attractive. Some who currently travel by rail from Twyford and Maidenhead stations, as per DFT tag unit M5 possible 1 modelling parking and Park and Ride guidance, nor the additional journeys made by drivers bypassing the Winnersh Park and Ride and using the Thames Valley Park and Ride instead. These switching of modes are additional journeys which would add to more traffic, increase pollution, noise, accidents, etc., and wipe out the many of the forecast benefits that this business case shows. Has this assessment been made, and if so, what was it? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Paul. I think the issue here is that the decision to actually build the Park and Ride, which was the one that the business case was related to, was made about 3 years ago. So the reason the business case was not in the paperwork tonight is that the executive paper is actually seeking to tender the bus service to service the Park and Ride because of some changes in circumstance. Where originally we were hoping to use the Thames Valley Park bus, that hasn't proved possible. So the reason the business case isn't in there is because that decision is made. The horse has already bolted on that. It was made quite some time ago. When the issue, the business case itself was reviewed by both the LEP and the Berkshire Local Transport Body, and they were satisfied that the business case was adequate at the time as well. Hope that answers your question.
Do you have a supplementary, Paul?
I do. It doesn't actually answer my question, because my question was, where does that show it within the business case? Because I can't find it at all. And to me, that is still background papers. However, my supplementary is about the actual bus service itself, because the business case on this project already has several several major risks, and one of these was the use of the current Thames Valley Park shuttle bus, identified as ID 1.5 in the risk assessment, with a risk assessment of very high and a cost impact of 250,000 to 500,000. The Borough Council have dismissed the Thames Valley Park management request for an additional sum of money over and above the 50% previously agreed. And I don't know what that is, because I can't find that in the business case either. Now that the bus service is proposed in the report tonight to be put out to tender, the Borough Council must have an estimated cost of running this service. And what is it compared to the 50% contribution previously offered by Thames Valley Park, and how will that be funded?
It would be very unwise of me to share in a public meeting any estimates we might have over the cost of something that we're about to tender. So I certainly wouldn't do that. Otherwise, you can more or less guarantee what the answers to the tender will be. As I said before, the reason the business case was not in this paperwork is the decision was made long before my time, and indeed before your time, to actually build this park and ride, and that was what the business case related to. The business case does not relate to the tendering of the bus service. I'm hoping with the tender that we'll actually get a good price from either alternative suppliers or indeed the Thames Valley Park buses.
Thanks, Paul. Tahir, I apologise for me missing you out. Could you ask your question, please? Tahir?
Yeah, coming on. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is fit and healthy and stays that way. Thank you for arranging this meeting. It's a nice initiative. The residents are asking when RE3 in Smallmead, Reading will reopen. Their concern is founded on the increased occurrence of unwanted fly tipping in the borough.
Harry?
Thank you, Tahir. Thank you, John. It's an important question, actually, Tahir. Everybody's asking that. RE3 is a partnership between Bracknell Forest, Reading and Wokingham, as you know, and manages the household recycling centres in both Reading and Bracknell. These were shut in March in line with the government lockdown announcement about non-essential travel, and given the inability to manage social distancing at these sites. The partnership is working with the operator of the sites to review the situation to see if a workable solution can be found to address social distancing concerns to allow the tips to open safely whilst ensuring that staff and residents can be protected. In relation to fly tipping, there is a risk that it could increase, but we hope that residents will continue to ensure that their waste is disposed of appropriately until these centres can be reopened. We are pleased to confirm that all of our other waste collection services are operating normally, and we are delivering garden waste, bins and bags.
Tahir, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, first of all, thank you to Councillor Parry for highlighting effectively the legitimate concern and need to care which we must adhere to for our staff because of COVID-19, and I think I totally agree with you on that. I note that supermarkets are providing a necessary and busy service and managing distance. Can we not take their lead and apply a similar discipline to maybe reconsidering reopening RE3, or do we need?
We are working on it as we speak to actually have these centres opened up again, and we're working on various options to look at how we can improve the social distancing and allow people to come to the sites in an orderly fashion. So the officers are working on it at this very moment, and we will hopefully announce the news very soon.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much, Tahir. And Rochelle.
Okay. What is the extent of the contingency plans for building control should one or both of the service partners, especially RBWM, because they have some real problems with their finances, but West Berkshire as well, be unable or unwilling to engage fully in the shared service during the coming or future years?
Agreement in time for prospective partners to agree and sign prior to the end of the current agreement. This will include Wokingham and West Berkshire councils, and the business will remain viable on this basis. We are investigating whether there are other new partners who may wish to have an interest in joining the shared service to achieve greater economies of scale, which could deliver efficiencies.
Rochelle, supplementary?
Yes. It's disappointing that there's no financial information supporting the business case. It's difficult to assess the risks involved in taking the decision if we cannot see the total income and total to which WBC is committed and of the building control services as a whole. Will you commit to providing sufficient financial information after this meeting and in the future to underpin the business case with the aim of making transparent the context of the decision?
I will look into that, Rochelle, and I'll get back to you.
Okay, just send it to me, fine.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Good evening. The health risks which asbestos poses to residents are of course well known and very serious. A friend of mine recently lost her husband, much too young, to a disease which was almost certainly caused by the fact that he'd worked with asbestos in the past. He was just one of the 20 tradespeople who the Health and Safety Executive estimate lose their lives every week to asbestos-related illnesses. The organisation Asbestos Victim Support says that the potential health risks for council housing tenants cannot be underestimated, especially for those who've been living for many years in a council property containing hidden asbestos. I'm glad to see that the council is tackling this issue to ensure the safety of residents living in homes owned by the borough and the tradespeople who undertake repairs. We all fully appreciate the uncertainty which the current COVID-19 pandemic is causing to all our plans. What impact do you anticipate it is having on the letting of this contract and the subsequent management and removal of asbestos?
Thank you, Rachel. As you know, like everybody else, we have a number of houses which were built at the time when asbestos was considered to be a perfectly acceptable building product. But we do have an incumbent asbestos management contractor, and they are able to manage the immediate service requirements during the COVID-19 outbreak and for the period of the procurement of the new contract, which you will see if you hang around, that I'll be presenting for approval tonight to the executive. We have researched the market and have identified and established the framework provider to use for the procurement. The asbestos management framework has been awarded to a reputable contractor, and we do not anticipate that the COVID-19 outbreak will cause the procurement to be delayed or that it will impact the mobilisation of the new contract following an award. As I say, I'll be presenting that later on to the executive for their approval.
Rachel, do you have a supplementary?
I do. Thank you very much. Given the enormous risks of asbestos to health and the fact that many residents and tradespeople are not confident in recognising or safely handling asbestos, what steps do the council take to ensure that all residents living in council-owned properties containing asbestos and all those involved in the repair and maintenance of those properties have the full information which they need to keep themselves safe, including the exact location of asbestos in these homes, the risks which asbestos poses to health, and the precautionary steps which they need to take for their health and safety?
Well, the new contract that we'll be letting tonight, if it's approved by the executive, it will be a management contract, and their job will be actually to go around and manage asbestos and eradicate it as quickly as possible in the council homes that we've got where it's in, where it is in there. I would say the amount of asbestos in our homes, as our homes as the homes we're delivering newer homes, of course they won't have it. So hopefully it will be something that will get eradicated relatively quickly. But we're putting aside £500,000 for the management of this contract.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. I've got some suggestions from an organisation to protect people living in homes which contain asbestos, and I'll send them over to you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Super. Thanks.
David Hare.
Thank you very much.
This will be the last question we'll take. The remaining questions will need to be replied in writing.
First of all, I'd like to thank very much Matt Pope and all his team who are doing all they can in this COVID crisis, in trying, but they're doing very well in these circumstances. I'd like to ask the question standing in my name, please.
Charles.
Good evening, David. Thank you for your question. I'm pleased that you've recognised personalisation and prevention as key principles of our strategy. This will drive our work for the next 5 years and beyond. I would say this document is, of course, a strategy, and as part of the process, should this be approved tonight, we'll now move on to designing the layer of services that fit beneath it. We recognise fully that not everyone has family or friends they can rely on. Our strategy refers to a community-led model of support where we, as a collective community, take responsibility and focus on people's situations and try to design services to match needs. No one should feel that their life is not worth living, and we acknowledge there is much work to do to enable some of our residents to develop, build the skills and friendships to sustain themselves. This strategy articulates how vitally important it is to understand people's needs and aspirations and to provide targeted support. This is also about designing services to match needs. This will deliver improvement in life chances and opportunities to become more active and engaged for all residents, with a lifestyle that's their choice and is meaningful and provides purpose. We appreciate that, but this is a process that's going to take time. We acknowledge some people, as in your question, may not meet the criteria in place for support, and therefore it's essential that there is a wide range of community-based provision that can support them beyond this. You were present at our first Designing Our Neighbourhoods meeting, as was John Halsall, and that this part of the process is about advertising, promoting and encouraging the full range of services in the borough. And also the voluntary strategy, which is on the agenda tonight, is part of developing the level of services beyond that and encouraging the voluntary sector to step forward and do all the things they do well to help in this situation. Where people stay at home, we will support them to live independently, as well as promoting even a full range of day opportunities and activities to provide physical as well as mental stimulation, such as befriending and network opportunities. All of our services will be designed to be available to people before they get to a crisis point, and the emphasis will be at all times to work with the community, our partners in the voluntary sector, to advertise and promote the full range of what can be offered across the borough, so that everybody is aware of this well before they get to crisis point.
David, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Charles. I was wondering, has the council, the COVID crisis, brought to the attention of the council more people who need support that you're offering, and even residential care at this time?
Charles?
I think as you stated in your introduction, the COVID crisis has obviously been a big challenge to the department, and I recognise the work of the officers and all the people in the voluntary sector who've worked alongside them, basically in providing services. The answer is basically many of the most vulnerable we knew of before, and we've been ringing them regularly to check on how they are and what services we need. It has brought forward other people. It has brought forward issues. I think obviously the range of voluntary services in the community were put together very, very quickly, which is a credit to everybody who was involved with them. But now we're in the process where the systems are in place that we can begin to take stock a little bit and listen and learn from what's been going on and make sure that's incorporated in what we do medium to longer term, when one day, this will be over. So thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And now to the body of the meeting. Parry, the Rights of Way Improvement Plan.
Thank you, John. Yes, the Rights of Way Improvement Plan 2020 to 2030. There was a need to review this. It is done every 10 years, and now is the time to do it, and it's driven by a policy change. And the final plan makes changes to alter a number of approaches from the previous plan. There will be greater emphasis on creating multi-use routes instead of cycle routes, which would cater for horse riding as well as cycling. There will be additional actions to certain needs and deliver improvements for motor vehicle users where appropriate, and to ensure proposals that would restrict existing vehicle access are considered, along with the other options to balance the needs of all the users. There'll be increased engagement with the vehicle user group to solve problems on byways, and there'll be separation of motorcycle and motor vehicle users as separate groups as they have different needs. New revised list of proposed routes will also be available. Now, the residents will be naturally benefiting from all this, and the council has a duty under the Countryside Rights of Way Act 2000 to prepare and update Rights of Way improvement plan every 10 years, like I've said. So the implementation of the improvement plans proposals are not binding. Any actions within the plan will only be undertaken when the opportunity, funds and resources become available. So therefore I ask the executive that to approve and adopt the Rights of Way improvement plan for the next 10 years.
Any questions from anybody on the executive?
No.
No.
No. No.
No.
Okay, those if there's no questions, then let's just take a vote. I think it was too ponderous to individually take a vote. I'm assuming there's all are in favour unless somebody abstains. Is anybody abstaining? No. Anybody voting against? No. Then unanimously carried. Thank you very much. Parry, it's your show again. Fly tipping strategy.
Thank you, John. The next report in front of you is the fly tipping strategy. We've developed a new strategy because the fly tipping situation was getting worse and worse and worse, and we were absolutely determined to actually have a strategy in place to combat this ugly behaviour by the residents to leave fly tipping in our beautiful borough. And the fly tipping strategy is based on primarily on prevention. How do we prevent that? We've taken a number of steps to make sure that we are visible. We're watching people tipping these horrible waste in our beautiful countrysides, and that there will be a strong community emphasis on communication and reporting of incidents. Responding to incidents, we'll naturally do that anyway. Enforcement and CCTV cameras have been put in place, and we're working with all our partners to make sure that everybody's aware of their responsibilities. It is a well-known fact that everybody within the borough wants to see a very clean borough, and we want to keep our borough very, very beautiful, and that this strategy will ensure exactly that. So I ask the executive to give clearance for this report to be implemented in the borough, please.
Any questions from anybody?
Can I just ask a quick question, John?
Yeah, sure, far away.
John Kaiser, Parry, are you confident that we will pursue offenders to the extent that the law allows us to, using this new policy?
I'm determined, John, that we will do everything we can to bring the offenders to account, and we will punish those people. And it's a warning to everybody who actually acts in a very irresponsible manner by doing things that they shouldn't be doing, which is making this fly tipping practice a horrible act, and we don't want to see it in our borough, and we will do everything we can to get rid of it.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, if I may.
Charlotte, far away.
Thank you. Perry, I'm really delighted that we've got this strategy, and I can say I really hope that it works. I'm pleased that we've also started to deploy CCTV cameras as well. It's a real blight on the countryside, and I live in a lane which has fly tipping maybe 2 or 3 times a week. So I think that our family are probably one of the biggest reporters of fly tipping in the whole borough. So thank you very much for bringing this to the executive tonight, and I look forward to it bearing some good results. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. My pleasure.
Those any I'll do it as I did it before. Any abstentions from this policy? Anybody voting against? Then I can take it the whole executive is in favour. Thank you. Moving on, Charles, adult social strategy.
Okay, thank you. This is the strategy was referred to in my answer to the question from David earlier, and it sets basically the key aims of the Adult Services Department for the next 5 years. Our ambition is to raise the performance of adult services into the top 10% in the country on every measure. We're already above average, but we want to get better. This is alongside working with our partners to deliver our priorities, which are keeping people safe, preventing and delaying the need for formal care and support, involving people in their own care, and working to deliver quality services wherever, which deliver the best value for money. We spend £49.6 million a year on support and care. Most of this is spent on older people and learning disability support. We're receiving at the moment 4,345 requests for service a year. The key themes of this are a clear, consistent pathway through a new single point of access for all residents to improve service and speed, preventing and reducing the need for care and support. This will be achieved by a strong focus on prevention and self-help, a community-led support model, which again I referred to earlier, reducing isolation and loneliness, better support for carers, maximising independence and increasing use of technology, choice and control for residents basically over the way support is designed, and we will work in partnership with the voluntary sector to encourage entrepreneurship and creative solutions.
Any questions?
Could I just thank Charles for all the efforts that the adult social care guys have been putting in recently? They've done a great job. They've certainly been very helpful.
Thank you, Pauline. I mean, I've seen what is a very capable department really hard pressed over the past few weeks, and they've gone above and beyond the call of duty. And to achieve what they have done in putting together with the voluntary sector all the support for our residents across the borough is really phenomenal. So, I mean, James Sunderland, who's my MP, and maybe for some other people listening, commented to me personally that, you know, other MPs have been commenting that what we were doing here was envy basically from them, that they've done really well, so credit to them.
Absolutely.
So again, if I could take it as I did last time, any abstentions, anybody voting against? So I take it all are in favour. Thank you very much, Charles. The voluntary community sector strategy, please.
Okay, well, I mean, this obviously we've seen the importance of the voluntary sector in the response the community has put together to COVID-19, where, you know, at very short notice, groups of charities and voluntary groups have stepped forward to really help deliver crucial services for our residents. And, you know, the list, I'm not going to name people because you could just go on, but, you know, thanks to all of them. The bottom line of this strategy, however, dates from before that the council cannot and does not have the resources to do everything. And the purpose of this strategy is to work with the voluntary sector to encourage it, incentivise it to fill in the gaps which the council cannot. Historically, we used to pay the voluntary sector to deliver a block of services. This emphasis has changed. It's now to commission individual services, set targets and monitor outcomes. This is a big pot of money, £1.25 million per annum. Currently goes to 22 voluntary sector bodies through 27 contracts. This is not a top-down reform. It was been designed with Involve and involved a consultation with 250 local charities. It was created with the voluntary sector rather imposed on them. I think the big things which I would draw out of this basically are our aspiration and aim to create a new hub for the voluntary sector in central Wokingham based on the successful model in Bracknell. And finally, which I think given the situation at the moment should come in helpful, a 3% increase in funding for all of the voluntary groups who we currently support. So, you know, putting our money where our mouth is in more than one sense of the word.
Any questions? Okay, so I take it everybody is in favour. Anybody abstaining? Anybody voting against? So I can take that as a unanimous vote for the voluntary and community sector strategy. Parry, arts and culture strategy.
Thank you, John. Yes, the arts and culture strategy. We as a council, currently we do not have a cultural strategy at the moment, but we need to have one in place. And it is an aspirational that the borough's culture offer will grow and develop into the future. The strategy has the potential over time to significantly enhance the cultural and leisure offers in the borough to the benefits of the vast majority of our residents, improving quality of life and enhancing well-being. So it was a cross-party working group that's endorsed this publication, which is in front of you, and I now ask the executive to endorse primarily the principles and the contents of the draft arts and cultural strategy, and also approve the consultation, which we'll go through once we are in a position to do so. And please agree to consider the results of the consultation and any resulting changes to the draft strategy at a future meeting of the executive.
Any questions?
Yes, please. It's not really a question. It's to talk about the strategy and the consultation. In talking to businesses, it became very clear. Sorry, I put the camera on. In talking to businesses over the last year or so, it became very clear that many employees within the region were leaving because they felt that there was a lack of arts and culture. So and many of the employees were heading off to places like university cities and London in particular because of our close proximity to that city. And I think that this strategy is really key, and it's key that we get it right and have a really good offer here, and also that we draw together everything that we are doing and all of the fantastic things into one place so everyone knows what we're doing and when we're doing it. The other thing is that we want to be able to help our economy, and particularly after COVID-19, get back on its feet and bring more people into the borough. And I think the one thing that we can do if we offer more arts and culture here is bring together a much vibrant, much better community and bring in tourists as well. The other opportunities through having a really good arts and cultural offer is the educational opportunities for our children and young people. As I said before, we've already got really, really fantastic offers and cultural activities. But if we enhance those and have everything in a single directory, I really think it will help in terms of participation and engagement and lead to much better outcomes for particularly for some of our more disadvantaged families. And lastly, as we are a borough that does a huge amount of development, I think that we need to engage much better with our new developers and give our new places that will have new homes a much greater sense of place and this will lead to much better health and well-being for those families that move into those new developments.
Thank you for your support, Charlotte, and absolutely marvellous what you've said, and I totally agree with you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything? Ask any questions? No? I'd like also to congratulate you, Parry, on getting this arts and culture strategy through. You know that it was one of my bugbears last year. Those, I'm assuming that everybody's in favour. Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? No, all unanimously carried. Thank you very much. John, Wayne, the Arbour Fields and Barkham Neighbourhood Plan.
Yeah, good evening. You remember this one, where I brought it previously to the executive to take it to a referendum, which we did, and the residents voted in favour by 94%. So the next step is to adopt the plan, and I'm looking for approval this evening to adopt the plan so it becomes part of our planning policy. As simple as that.
Any questions? No?
I'd only like to say, John, that I was involved with this and I felt it was a very, very well written plan, and it's a good template for any other parish councils who want to put a plan together.
Any other questions, statements? Again, I'll work backwards. Any abstentions? Any votes against? So I can conclude that everybody's in favour. Thank you very much. Thames Valley Park and Ride Bus Service, Pauline.
Thank you, Chairman. As was discussed briefly in the question that was asked by Mr. Fishwick earlier, we are going to have to tender the Park and Ride bus service. Originally, when the Thames Valley Park and Ride got planning permission and was approved for building about 3 years ago, the plan was to give half of the income from the car park to Thames Valley Park themselves and divert their shuttle bus to serve the car park. This was in the heads of terms and it was stated in the planning application, and it was agreed in principle. Unfortunately, Thames Valley Park are now reluctant to divert their bus without significantly higher financial contribution from the Borough Council. So what I'd like to get approval for now is to tender this service so we can get best value for the ratepayers, and I will bring any financial implications back after the tender is complete.
Any questions? No? Everybody, any abstentions? No? Anybody voting against? No? So I can assume that it's carried unanimously. Thank you. Parry, shared service building control charges.
Thank you, John. This report would have been presented to the March executive, but it wasn't for all the reasons you know why. It is now presented here, and it was a review of the charges that we actually take for shared service building control charges. The building control shared service is between ourselves, Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, and West Berkshire. That commenced on 1st of July 2016. Charges for the statutory trading account were last reviewed and increased in line with inflation April of last year. The proposed charges set out in this report were recently considered and agreed by the Shared Services Building Control Board. The report sets out the proposed charges for the statutory trading account to take effect as of 1st of May of this year. So I now ask the executive to agree to these building control charges from 1st of May, please.
Any questions? No? I'll take it again backwards. Any abstentions? Anybody voting against? I can assume then it's carried. John, contract for asbestos removals.
Thank you, John. This leads on from Councillor Firth's question. Basically, under the landlord, as I said, we've built a number of council houses in the past using asbestos, which at the time was a perfectly acceptable building material. But now we have a duty to our to both tenants and contractors as landlords under the 2012 Control of Asbestos regulations, and this is for us to appoint a competent person or competent company to manage that and to actually remove the asbestos and report where the problems are. The cost is likely to be in excess of £500,000, and the business case obviously requires approval because of the amount. The money will come from the HRA, which is a ring-fence fund which is designed to maintain and service our social housing. So I would just like to ask any questions.
No, again, I'd like to take it again backwards. Any abstentions? Any votes against? Then I can assume that everybody's in favour. Thank you. And thank you. That concludes our first virtual executive meeting. I would like to end by thanking everybody again, councillors of every party, officers, residents in the voluntary sector, for the awesome support and work during this emergency. We have in many ways been an exemplar to other councils. And in particular, I think I'd like to congratulate and if congratulations are right, and then so Susan, Matt, and his team for all their work in this period, which has been a very fraught period. I would like to just take a moment's silence to commemorate all those who have tragically died during this crisis, and our thoughts are with them. Thank you. And lastly, I would like to thank, on behalf of all the council and residents, all those who are keeping us safe, particularly the NHS and the care sector. Thank you and good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Night.
Night.
Right. Okay. Well, good evening, everybody, to this rather unusual setting for a meeting. Right. Can I first of all ask that you switch off all your mobile phones and any devices that you may have, and also that when you're not speaking, could you please mute your microphone? This meeting is going to be available online later, so you are all being filmed, so best behaviour. And to start with, can I ask for apologies, Anne?
Mayor, there aren't any apologies.
Thank you very much. Come on, next item is the minutes of the last meeting, which were held on the 28th of November in 2019. Is everybody happy that they're a true they're a true record of that meeting and eventually may be signed as such? Everybody happy? Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, these will be signed at the next full meeting where we are able to sign them. Do we have any declarations of interest?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Public question times. Do we have any members of the public wishing to ask questions?
Mr. Mayor, we don't have any public or member questions.
Thank you very much. Well, no member questions. We can go right on to the Arborfield and Barkham Neighbourhood Plan. John, would you like to speak on behalf of the executive to this plan?
Bill, yes. John Kaiser here. Yes, I mean, this has been passed by the executive. This is accumulation of about 3.5 years worth of work put in by the people of Arborfield and Newlands and Barkham Parish Council. It's part of the government's trying to get local parish and town councils involved in the planning framework, and I would recommend this wholeheartedly to the committee.
Thank you very much, John. Okay. Now, are there any members wish to speak on this before we go to a vote? Are there any questions that you'd like to put to John or speak about it?
Yes, Lindsay here. I'd like to just briefly mention. I'm very pleased that we've now got our second neighbourhood plan in the borough that's gone through the process, and I think the residents and all of the parish people involved have done a very good job, and it was passed with, I think, over 90% support. The only question I've got is, we've got unprecedented times at the moment, and I don't know what the impact that's going to be on what happens from now on. What's the procedure for a neighbourhood plan should there be something that comes in on left side that means it makes quite a big change? And it's a generic question, not necessarily aimed at this parish, just to understand what the overall process would be.
Well, and Lindsay, as you say, it's unprecedented, isn't it, really? So I don't think that there is any provision. I would suggest that if there was something that changed the plan significantly, the plan would then have to come back with the amendments and it would have to go through the same process. I don't think there's any other way of doing it. There's no provision, as I can see, for any emergency any emergency things within the plan. As I say, this is pretty unprecedented. I mean, this is only sort of second to an earthquake, isn't it? I guess in occurrence. So, but I would assume, and maybe Anne like to correct me if I'm wrong, that it would have to go through, if they wanted to change it, it would have to go through, at least the changes would have to go through the same procedure.
I think this is something that we would have to provide you with, Lindsay, outside of the meeting, and I will arrange for that to happen.
Thank you. I'm just, you know me, I can see issues, and I'm just worried, and that we work on something that's going in a certain direction, and then all of a sudden something which is so big comes along and generates a real problem, and I'm just thinking what the overall process would be. I've got my hat on because Twyford's halfway through a neighbourhood plan at the moment, so what the impact would be and all sorts of things starts becoming some serious questions, and we don't know yet. But John, I don't disagree with your answer. I think that was actually quite a good answer, because I suspect that under the current legislation, if they needed to tweak it or whatever because of A, B and C, then they might have to go through another vote, which would be a right palaver again. But we're just thinking about where we are at the moment, because we don't know what's going on, because the current neighbourhood plan was based upon what it was in December, and here we are in April, and it feels quite different.
Thank you for that, Lindsay.
Are there any other members or committee members' questions?
Yes, can I just say something, Bill? I think from reading it, it seems to be a very good plan. A lot of hard work has obviously gone into it, and as 94% of the residents voted in favour of it, I think we should be passing this as soon as we can tonight.
Thank you, Clive.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the committee before we proceed?
It's Malcolm here. I just want to make a comment. It's not a question. I'm assuming that having gone through a fairly long, lengthy process and having such good support for it, it's there. If there was a need for a change of some sort, unless it was an absolutely massive change, one would assume that a mechanism could apply to make a change without having to go through the entire process again. I would think there is a capability, but I'm not sure, of course. It is unprecedented times, as we say. But I like what's there at the moment, and it seems to be very popular and approved, so I have no problem with it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no further questions, I will ask now to proceed to a vote. We're voting on the recommendation that the Arborfield and Barkham Neighbourhood Plan be made to form part of the statutory development plan pursuant to Section 38A, Section 4 of the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act 2004. Okay, so first of all, is there any, can I ask every member of the committee if they're for it? First of all, those for it?
Yes, for it. I'm for.
John Halsall for.
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 Yeah. Clive, you're for, yeah. Okay. Is there anybody against? No, nobody against, so therefore that is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And a very good night to all. Keep healthy.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.